Imagine it's the 1980s and you're a young woman wanting to learn investing in finance, and you don't have the resources to go to college. Oh, well, what do? My guest today certainly defines the word bootstrapping. She started as a secretary, remember secretaries, on Wall Street, and learned as much as she could. She went on to teach herself the business, worked her way up, and now she owns her own financial firm, Star Financial. Esther Kuznetz, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I am so glad that you were able to find the time because, well, when this airs, you'll have already been back from
Africa.
And we're going to have you back on because I want to hear about your safari adventures.
Oh, yes.
In an email you shared with me, you mentioned that you were actually homeless at one point.
Yeah, for a very brief time. I was 19 and pretty much had nowhere to go, and all of a sudden somebody told me there was a party up in Woodstock in this barn, and I said okay, and I actually stayed there for about 9 months making tie-dyes for Grateful Dead concerts.
And studying.
That was a long time ago. No, that was before that.
Oh, it was before that.
That was before that.
Well, because you did mention something about studying in a parking lot.
Studying in a parking lot
of Grateful Dead concerts.
Oh, that, yeah, well,
yeah.
That's, I did not really.
I did my homework here.
Yes, but different kinds of studying, so not
Okay.
from a book. So I had a lot of my education came from being in Grateful Dead parking lots. If there are any Deadheads out there, you know that you get shown the light in the strangest of places. And in Grateful Dead world, in a parking lot, there is a whole culture that goes on. And there have been studies by great economists about the Grateful Dead, the Deadhead culture, and the economy of that parking lot. And I learned the value of things. I learned all about economics, supply and demand, what, you know, if there's a bunch of tickets, they become cheaper, or sometimes you can trade a grilled cheese sandwich for a ticket. Sometimes it takes a lot more than that. So learned a lot about economics, the economy, all kinds of things in the parking lot at a bunch of Grateful Dead shows.
So you got like an honorary degree in Grateful Deadism.
Well, not quite so much, but when I did make friends with Dr. Bob Goodman, who was the chief economist for Putnam, and he taught me a whole lot more.
Yeah.
But I actually taught him a little bit about what I learned, and he was very surprised to know that I had learned so much from Grateful Dead parking lots.
Are you still a fan?
Oh, of course. Once you're a Deadhead, you're always a Deadhead.
So then you go into Manhattan to get a job?
Right.
How did you end up on Wall Street?
I needed to support myself.
Yeah.
And I learned that because I couldn't go to college. Long story short, you know, just didn't have the means. My parents were claiming me on taxes, so I couldn't get financial aid because I wasn't even living with them at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I went and got a job. I went through a temp agency, and I said, I need the most money I can get. I can type. And I started at, hopefully I can say the name of the firm.
Sure, why not?
Goldman Sachs.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
You might have heard of them. I was a secretary for a year, 85 Broad Street. And then when I decided that I learned I could make more in mergers and acquisitions in the 80s, as a senior secretary, I got a job over at Dean Witter, which at the time I think was Dean Witter Reynolds, and now they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
But I was there at the World Trade Center for quite a while. And that was when I really got my education in all things like financial industry. Direct was there.
Wow. So you worked with some really talented people and some...
They made movies about what I was doing back then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's some movies out there.
Well,
and I'll tell you, real life was a whole lot better than what's in the movies. They forgot a few things.
Like what?
We're not going to talk about that. Highly confidential information. But suffice it to say, I wasn't allowed to talk about anything I was doing, and then it would like hit the news, and I'd be able to say, that's what I've been doing for the last few months, you know, so that was pretty exciting.
Wow, wow. But somehow you developed this passion for the business of trading and investing and?
Well, I came down to Sarasota in 1991.
Okay.
And
that makes you a native, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I've been here a while. And again, you know, I got the secretarial job where I could, you know, make a living and pay the bills. And so I was working for some attorneys, and I wasn't having a really good time. And I had a client who I was working with for what he was involved with the attorney I was working for. And one day he said, you know, you're really good. Have you ever thought of being in the financial industry? And I pretty much laughed and said, well, I've been doing that for 10 years back in New York. I'd love to. And he had just become independent.
Yeah.
And that's when I really got into wanting to work with people and their investments and helping people and making sure they can retire and making sure that their goals are met. And that was pretty much where all that started. And so I joined him. I was supposed to run his office. And I got there in December. By June, I had taken the Series 7 and the Series 65, and then I was an advisor. And took some of his clients, made some of my clients, and the rest is history.
What brought you to Sarasota?
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. What, did you just come down to visit and you went, this is where I want to be?
That's another funny story, because I was always being the deadhead I am. I was going to go to California, right?
Well, right, yeah.
And, but I was in New York with a significant other who was in medical school, and we had both agreed that we were going to come to Florida. He had done a residency in Largo.
Okay.
And right before he was ready to move and getting licensed, I came down and drove all over Florida and found Sarasota. And again, the Grateful Dead thing happened because Tompkins Stanton, who was in the Grateful Dead for about 5 minutes, he was playing at the 5-0.
Okay.
And that was like kismet. Between that and seeing the big purple spaceship as I came over the bridge, being the Van Weasel, I was like, this is my place, this is where I belong. And then I saw Siesta Key Beach, and yeah, it was sealed. But that's why I'm here. I picked it, and I've been here ever since. And no, he didn't make it here. He's still in New York.
You know, things come and go.
Yeah.
And yeah, my story is very similar. My very first visit, I just fell in love. I knew.
Yeah.
And you know, folks who've seen the show or know me a little bit may know that I bought my house. On my very first visit, within 72 hours ever being, and I found Sarasota as well. So I get it, and so many people I talk to.
Yeah.
It's a place you find.
I came for a visit and never went home, never went back.
Yeah.
And you never rethink it. It's like, this is where I belong. Did
you find in the 80s and 90s that being a woman was a disadvantage?
It was horrible. And even now, I mean, my industry is so male dominated, which is why I have a passion for working with women in my industry.
Right.
The numbers a couple of years ago, I saw the study was that only 16% of all registered FINRA registered advisors were women in the country. 16%.
Wow.
Yet, it's like, again, during that time, and that was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, over 88% of the checkbooks in this country were run by women. And even in most households, women make a lot of the financial decisions, not to mention single women and everything else. And what I say is, most women, even if their husbands are doing everything now, most of the time, they're going to either outlive them or divorce them or, you know, whatever. They're going to be in charge of their own money. And yet the industry is still focused on the men.
So, and we can save financial literacy for another conversation. So going from being a secretary to a senior secretary to finally coming to Sarasota and getting your licensures, getting the more what I would call formal education.
Right.
Did you ever think that you would be where you are today?
No. No.
Where did you think you were going to be?
Oh, boy. I thought I'd be an advisor. I never thought I'd be a top advisor or, you know, anything of this stature. I never thought I'd have my own firm. You know, I figured I'd be always working for somebody else and making, you know, commissions or fees, but, you know, paying somebody else to be there. I never in a million years thought that I'd be where I am now, and I am so blessed and so grateful. And I never take it for granted, not for 1 second. And I have other advisors working for me. My assistant's getting registered. I'm looking for more. So if you're an advisor out there looking to go to a great firm, I have more office space.
We'll keep that in mind. I can see it, the way your face lights up, that you really are passionate about. What other passions do you have?
Art, music, travel.
Yeah.
And helping people do this. Animals.
Yeah.
Love animals.
What do you do to sort of shut the world out and shut down, or are you always up and on?
No, you work hard, you play hard. So my favorite place to be in the whole world is 100 feet under a boat. I'm a scuba diver.
Really?
And when you're diving, you hear nothing but your own breath, and it's peaceful, and the phones aren't ringing, and there's no ticker telling you that the market's doing what the market's doing, and you're just at peace, you're weightless, watching the fish. And that's what I love.
For me, it was sailing.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. You're just out on the water, you don't hear it,
Yeah.
Put the phone away.
Getting away and just going. I do have a boat. I go out on weekends on my boat and do the same thing, just like, yeah.
You need to do that.
You got to turn it off. And going to Africa.
Yeah. Well, and
I'm pretty much going to be shut down for a little while out there too.
Absolutely. What else? You mentioned animals.
Oh, I would save them all if I could. Most of the time, I like animals more than people. I am the crazy cat lady. I have 4 cats.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think you have to have 5 to be the real crazy one.
Do you have to be really crazy?
That's the limit, is 5.
Yeah, except you don't know my cats.
4, you're borderline.
I keep telling my friends I'm going to hug all the lions when I'm in Africa. They're fearful of my well-being at this point.
Good luck.
Yeah, I'd have dogs, but I'm never home to walk them, so I can't have dogs. But yeah, I love animals.
If you could go back to your 18 or 19-year-old self, maybe in that parking lot of a Deadhead concert, and you could walk up to her, what would you tell her?
I'd tell her it's going to be okay. You're going to do just fine.
Yeah.
And just be who you are. Don't be selling out, which I never did. And although I thought about it a few times, and just say, you know what? It's going to be fine. You're going to be really surprised how this ends up. And I really am. It's wonderful.
And here you are.
Yeah.
On Suncoast People.
There I am.
Yeah, and we actually met on another show.
Yes, we did.
Suncoast View, and I was just tickled. Well, that's not really. I wasn't tickled, but I was so pleased to meet you, and we had some great conversations, and I had you on my list of folks, because we get, and this is, folks know who watch the show. You talk about your profession on other programs and in your videos, but people don't get to talk about themselves and their passions and what makes them tick, and that's what this show is about.
Yeah.
And for that, I thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been fun. And
I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for your support, and keep the emails coming at info@suncoastpeople.com. Again, info, it's right down here, info@suncoastpeople.com. And I'm Robert Tim, and thanks for watching.